Hello and welcome to another video tutorial from screencastworld.com. In this tutorial I'll show you how to create a MySQL database and database user to support the installation of Magento Commerce. If you haven't already watched the introductory screencast for this series, in which I discuss the security hints and tips for choosing your database name, database username and creating secure passwords, then I highly encourage you to do so. You can find the introductory screencast either in the Screencast World YouTube channel or in the show notes, which you'll find on screencastworld.com. This screencast focuses on using the database wizard within CPanel to facilitate the creation of database and database user. This is the simplest method of the four that I'll show you and is ideal for people with limited knowledge of the database administration. The database wizard walks you through each phase of the process for creating the database user and password, and then automatically assigns that username to the database. If you log in to your web hosting control panel, or CPanel for short, you'll typically get a screen which looks similar to this one. All the functionality is available from the CPanel. You'll need to scroll down until you get to the databases section, where you'll most likely see these four icons. Now for this screencast we're interested in the database wizard, and I'm going to ignore the others for now as they're covered in other screencasts. Now in step 1 it asks us for the database name. On a shared hosting platform like this one, your database name will be automatically prefixed with your web hosting or CPanel username. This makes the database unique within the hosting provider's database's namespace. When choosing the database name, remember what I said in the intro, security through obfuscation. MySQL supports database names up to 64 alphanumeric characters in length. If you're on a shared hosting solution, you'll typically find that your web hosting provider limits the database name to around 16 to 18 characters in length. This also includes the prefix username and underscore. If you're on a dedicated server, then your maximum length is limited by MySQL itself. So refer to the documentation for your particular version of MySQL to see what is and is not allowed. Now I'm just going to enter a database name of Magento 10. You need to choose something unique. Remember, just entering something like Magento or Mag is easily guessed by hackers, so try to avoid these names wherever possible. If everything is OK, you'll get this green tick. If you enter an invalid database name, you'll get a red cross and a message like this. Here we can see that the database name is longer than the permissible 16 characters, so we need to shorten it. Remember to correct any problems before you proceed. Assuming everything's OK, click on the Next Step button. On the next screen, the first thing you'll note is this message at the top. It states that the database has been created. If there were any errors in creating of the database, this is where they'll show up. Note that the database name includes the prefix here, so the full database name is actually your username underscore Magento 10, not just the Magento 10, which is what we entered. This is important to remember as it's the full database name you'll need to provide to the Magento installer. I'm just going to make a copy of the database name and save it to a text editor so that I have it available for the Magento installation. Now in step 2 it asks us to enter the username and password. Although it doesn't explicitly state it here, your cPanel username will be prefixed to the username you enter here, just like it did with the database name. Note that the freeform part of the username is limited to 7 characters. Those on a dedicated server solution won't have this limit imposed. Again, remember to think about security when choosing this username. The username and password is only required by Magento, and you'll not need to log in using these credentials yourself. So choose something hard to guess, as this will limit your exposure to any attacks. So I'm going to choose a username of magdb85 and note the green tick to say that everything's OK with this particular username. Now when choosing a password, choose something that's at least 16 characters long, using a combination of letters, uppercase and lowercase, numbers and symbols. To help you, there's an integrated password generator. Alternatively, you can use an online password generator, such as onlinepasswordgenerator.com. So I'm going to hit password generator, and I'm going to expand the advanced options because I want a password that's at least 16 characters in length. Here we get the option of choosing alphanumeric characters, both uppercase and lowercase, so I recommend you use the both. And for non-alphanumeric characters, we select the option for both numbers and symbols. If we then hit the generate password at the top, we can see that numerous passwords are generated for us, and it's just a case of selecting one and going with that option. Now before the use password button is highlighted, we must put a tick in this checkbox here that says I have copied this password in a safe place. So I'm just going to make a copy of this and copy it over to our text editor, just so again I've got it for our installation. And then we can flip back to our CPanel and hit use password. Now here it said this is a very strong password, which is good, that's exactly what we need. Finally, we just click create user. So on the next screen we again get the notification at the top stating that the username we just created is now associated with the database that we created in step 1. Note what I said before, that your CPanel username has been prefixed to the username. The password you generated will not have been prefixed in any way, as we can see here. Again, I'll just make a note of our username and add it to our text editor. And flip back to CPanel. In step 3, we have to select what privileges and actions we're going to allow our database user to have. Placing a tick in the All Privileges box at the top automatically ticks everything else for us. And this is fine for a default installation of Magento. Finally, click Next Step. And that's essentially it. We again see the confirmation that the username has been added to the database, and this just means that the permissions that we've selected have been associated with our database username, and that username has been associated with the database. We have 3 options now. We can either choose to add another database using the database wizard, we can add another user using the MySQL Databases area, or we can return home. Now if for some reason you made a mistake, or you'd like to edit or delete either the database or the database user, then click on Return Home. Once on the CPanel homepage, scroll down to the Databases section and click on MySQL Databases. Now the MySQL Databases interface is actually a slightly more advanced interface than the wizard that we've just gone through, and is subject to another screencast, so I won't spend too long here. But we can see that we can create new database, we can modify databases, we can see the databases that we currently have installed, and we have the ability of deleting the database, deleting the users that are associated with the database. We can also add new users, and we can also associate those users with the databases that we have installed, and down the bottom here we have a list of current users, again, which we can delete. So this brings us to the end of this particular screencast. If you've enjoyed this video tutorial, please comment and rate it. It just leaves me to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon in one of my other screencasts from screencastworld.com.